This will sound very strange, but the death of famous actor Matthew Perry of the show Friends, after his social media post about the moon that coincided with the partial lunar eclipse seen from the state of Maine on the night of the Hunter full moon, that coincided with the end of the manhunt for the shooter in the mass shooting in Maine, who was found in a river, and the end of the movie Hunt for Red October, in which the final scene is the submarine hiding in a river in Maine, and the mysterious drowning of Obama's chef and its connection to the mysterious drowning of Matthew Perry after playing pickleball, chef and pickleball being allusions to food, and the release on the date of the shooting in Maine of the new apocalyptic movie that was executive produced by the Obamas, starring Julia Roberts, who dated Matthew Perry, who died on Julia Roberts' birthday, is all part of a prophecy from the righteous Christian God of the Bible that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on February 3rd, 2024, and that Michelle Obama will replace her as the vice president and then will become the president on February 20th, 2024. Only in this video will you learn the true prophetic significance of the death of Obama's chef and Matthew Perry. Make sure you watch this amazing video. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Alright, this video is very special. There's a lot of explanation and it's very interesting, but make sure you get through it because it climaxes at the end. Make sure you watch this video all the way to the end and you will be rewarded. And you will see what God was doing with this big picture here he is communicating, this story, or rather stories, that is all pointing to Michelle Robinson Obama becoming the president on February 20th, 2024. This prediction. When the prediction comes to pass, you will then also realize how special the information in this video is. Alright, in this email I'm going to explain some truly amazing things, a number of amazing things that'll be jaw-dropping. You need to listen to all of this video. I'm just going to read, though, from emails that I wrote to friends explaining what happened here with a number of things, including the mass shooting in Maine, the 23rd state, the death of Matthew Perry, the actor from the show Friends, and also the death of Michelle and Barack Obama's chef, Safari Campbell, and many other things. So let's get started. It was the 23rd state. So as I'm writing this, I'm writing to people that know basic things, such as, for example, right here, Obama wore jersey 23 and he will return to the White House in 23. This is why God uses the number 23 in his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. And this is why the prophetic significance of this shooting in Maine, because it is the 23rd state to join the Union. To confirm his signs, God pairs 23 and 44 together, because the 44th president, who is the basketball president, wore jersey 23 when he played basketball in high school, and again will become the president, or rather return to the White House in 2023. He is predicted to become the president on January 7th, 2024, which is 4 times 444 hours, which is 74 days, the equivalent of 1776 hours. And of course, 1776 is the year that the nation was founded, giving this national warning of judgment for America. This 4 times 444 hours connection, which hints at the Antichrist, the 44th president. Okay, and so after this shooting that was in the 23rd state, it is 4 times 444 hours to the date it is predicted that Barack Obama, the 44th president, will become the president again. And that is a pairing of 44 and 23, which confirms the signs and connections. And this is how it works. This is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And when we think about it, one simple way in which he would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 23 and 44. And I know that these are the numbers that God uses to pair together and confirm the signs and connections, because I have spent more than full-time hours from morning until night for 6 years studying his big picture of signs. The Antichrist's number is 666, and there were 6 plus 6 plus 6 deaths, 18 deaths in the mass shooting in the 23rd state. The story is about the normally quiet town in which the shooting took place. The shooting was in the second largest city in the 23rd state. This hints at the second term for the basketball president who wore jersey 23. It also hints at the number 223, which is the 48th prime number, because Barack Obama will become the 48th president. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will become the 47th president, after it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash and Joe Biden steps down. Okay, so the wearer of number 23 will become the 48th president 4 times 444 hours after the shooting in the 23rd state. Mass shootings hint at, in general, in God's signs, mass shootings hint at the CVD SHOs. And if you're reading this instead of only listening, you can see what I'm pointing to. Okay, but think about it. The things that come out of guns and go into people are, in fact, symbolism for the things that come out of things and go into people that are related to the CVD disease. Okay, and the second biggest city in the 23rd state hints at 23 pairs of chromosomes, right? 2 and 3. Second biggest city, 23rd state. Chromosomes come in pairs, and there are 23 of them. This is why, by the way, Barack Obama will be the 48th president and Antichrist. It does hint at the number 48 hints at 223, because 223 is the 48th prime number. And as I just explained, 2 and 23, which is 223, hint at pairs of chromosomes, in which there are 23 of them. All right. Thus, the reason for the second biggest city in the 23rd state, and why 223 is the 48th prime number, as it is the 48th president who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing that changes, and it is the SHOs that change 23 pairs of chromosomes. Lewiston, Maine has a population of 38,000. This hints at 38,000, or rather Lewiston hints at St. Louis, which is located on the 38th latitudinal line. The 48th president will be unelected, just like the 38th president. 4 times 444 hours after the SHOs in the 23rd state, Obama will become predicted to become the 48th president after Harris's predicted plane crash in St. Louis, hence Lewiston, on the 38th latitudinal line, which is why Lewiston has a population of 38,000. Okay, and this plane crash of Harris is predicted to be 13 days after the SHOs in Lewiston. That's a typo. All right? And this is why in the shooting, 13 people were injured. So again, 13 days after 13 people were injured in Lewiston is the predicted crash in St. Louis, which will lead to the rise of the Antichrist. And what I didn't write in this paragraph is that from the Bible, the number 13 is symbolic of the Antichrist. Nimrod, a type for the Antichrist, was the 13th generation from Ham. Haman, another type for the Antichrist, persecuted the Jews on the 13th days of the month. And the two Antichrists are described in the book of Revelation in chapter 13. All right, 13 days after this shooting on October 25th was November 7th, and we received the amazing prophetic signs that confirmed the analysis. November 7th was a very, very important date, a step in the trail of signs leading to the predicted date that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. This video explains some of the amazing and important prophetic signs that the righteous Christian God of the Bible used to point to October 17th, 2023, regarding the prediction that U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. Here is the email and forensic notes document that indicate that the prediction for Harris's plane crash on October 17th, 2023 was known since July 6th, 2023. In fact, it has been known since October of 2020 that Harris will die in a plane crash so that Barack Obama can become the president again. God pointed to October 17th, ahead of October 17th, and so it was believed that Harris's predicted plane crash would be on October 17th. As explained in the Gaza explosion video, the extremely profound prophetic signs that occurred on October 17th, 10:17, revealed adding 3 sets of 7 days to reach November 7th, 11:7. The signs on 11:7 in turn revealed a trail of signs that continued on through other dates, and this trail of signs is predicted to ultimately end on February 2nd or 3rd, 2024. This trail of signs that I am referring to is explained in the must-watch Gaza explosion video. That said, October 17th was the bigger date. October 17th was supremely important, and the signs on 10:17 pointed to Zechariah chapter 1, verse 17 in the Bible. The Gaza explosion video explains how the signs on 10:17 pointed to Zechariah 1:17. Zechariah 1:17 was also hinted at with the date 11:7. Which again was a prophetic 3 sets of 7 days after 10:17. Furthermore, from 11:7, the trail of signs regarding Harris's predicted plane crash continued on to the date 1:7, and this too was another hint at Zechariah 1:17. The reason why God used October 17th, the date 10:17, to point to Zechariah 1:17 is that this important prophecy in Zechariah chapter 1 in the Bible is dated. And the date of this prophecy is recorded in Zechariah chapter 1 verse 7, 1:7. And the date 10:17 also hints at this. The prophet Zechariah recorded the precise date on which he received the prophecy from God. The date was the 24th day of the month of Shavat in the Hebrew calendar. This year in 2024, the 24th day of Shavat begins at sunset on February 2nd and goes to sunset February 3rd. In other words, God used many different profound trails of signs to lead to October 17th, 2023, in order to reveal the date on which Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, the 24th day of the month of Shevat, which is February 2nd or 3rd, 2024. So anyway, the signs that occurred on November 7th are explained in the must-watch Gaza explosion video. And anyway, that makes this 13 days connection from the 13 injured valid. It's relevant. It is true, especially when the prediction comes to pass. The location of St. Louis, and by the way, there's 2 antichrists and there's 2 sets of 13 here. We have 13 days from 13 injured. The location of St. Louis near the paths of the 2017 and upcoming 2024 eclipses that will cross over each other and engender an X hints at the X shape of 23 pairs of chromosomes. And by the way, that is why these 2 eclipses will engender an X. It will be pointing to the 23 pairs of chromosomes and the mark of the Antichrist that changes them, which is what makes it a spiritual abomination. One reason. Of course, it also uses, well, we won't get into, well, you know what, it uses material, organic material from unborn people. Okay? We'll leave it at that. One part, and if you don't know that, and you are Christian, I don't know what to tell you. You should know that. The prophet Hosea said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because my people reject knowledge, I reject them from being my priests. So take that as a warning. I mean, how in the world do you not know that? And I was saying this to people that have taken it. I talked to a Christian that took it and justified it, saying, "Well, it was for the greater good, for the greater cause." And I had to reply, "Well, do you really think that God would design it that you need to do evil in order to do good? It doesn't make any sense." And he thought about it and realized I was correct. One point of this story is that the first black president of the university in Lewiston, Maine, was set to be formally inaugurated today. So the day I'm writing this is October 27th. Okay, so 2 days after the shooting, the first black president of the university in Lewiston, which is, from what I understood from the article, an important university, at least in the area, he was set to be formally inaugurated, coincidentally right after the shooting, 2 days later. However, because of the manhunt, this has been postponed. His first name is Gary, and the school's name is Bates. I forget if it's Bates College or Bates University. I think it's the latter, but anyway, Gary and Bates hints at gates. And in the Bible, judgment symbolically begins on a people at the gates, which is why Harris's plane crash is predicted to be in St. Louis, which is hinted at with Lewiston, near the Gateway Arch National Monument. That is a primary reason why it is predicted she will die in St. Louis, because it will be symbolic of the beginning of judgment at the gates of America. She will be replaced by the first black president, Barack Obama, the basketball president who wore jersey 23, which is why the inauguration of the first black president of the college in Lewiston was canceled as a result of the shooting in the 23rd state. The movie The Hunt for Red October ends with the submarine hiding in the Penobscot River in Maine. I'm going to give that name another shot here. Penobscot. Okay, so this movie, a very famous movie, of course, The Hunt for Red October, the ending of the movie is a scene in which the submarine is hiding in the Penobscot River in Maine. All right, what I just realized that I didn't before is a connection here to the Titanic submarine, which was one of the most important climactic signs of all in God's big picture of signs. In fact, you'll notice that there's only one video on the channel here that is 7 hours long. It isn't only about the Titanic, of course. Like I say at the beginning of that video, it is 50 videos worth of information and prophetic stories that God is telling wrapped into one video. Because what am I going to do? Take the time to divide it all up into 50 videos? But what it is a big picture, and I had to give it a title, and it really climaxed with the submarine sign that captivated the world. What I'm trying to tell you is make sure you watch that video, even though it is that long. You're like watching 50 videos in one. So anyway, the Titanic sub sign climaxed on June 22nd, exactly 18 weeks before this mass shooting in Maine, which, as I'm explaining here, connects to the submarine in The Hunt for Red October. And it was 18 people that were killed in the mass shooting in Maine. Again, the final scene of the movie in The Hunt for Red October is this river in Maine. All right, and then this sign that I'll be explaining here in Maine connects with, which killed 18 people, the shooting, is exactly 18 weeks after the climax to the Titanic submarine sign. All right, so let's continue here. Okay, so the movie The Hunt for Red October ends with the submarine hiding in the Penobscot River in Maine. The fire destruction of the USS Miami submarine, when it was docked in the 23rd state of Maine, was a prophetic sign. Miami and Maine also both begin with M and have 5 letters. To confirm his signs and connections, God pairs 23 and 44 together. The USS Miami, that was docked in the 23rd state, was the 44th Los Angeles class submarine. So I'm not going to get into this prophetic sign. I just wanted to bring it up. It's just basically it's confirmation. This is how God's signs works. They require second witnesses, and those second and third witnesses also require, in turn, more second and third witnesses for them. And then those witnesses also require second and third witnesses for them. And likewise, those require second, you get the idea here. It goes on into infinity. It is. It's just like the Bible. The Bible isn't a linear document. It is infinitely connected to each other. You can take an infinite number of pathways through it. It's an interconnected web. Anyway, that's how God's big picture of signs works, and that's why it's extremely difficult to explain, because you require these second and third witnesses to explain things. So anyway, I'm not going to explain the USS Miami submarine sign here, because that's not what the point of this video is. I just wanted to bring it up that this sign of this submarine was in fact in Maine, the 23rd state. And it was the 44th built of the Los Angeles class submarine. All right, so having gone into that, I just did another calculation that I didn't realize before when I wrote this email. But that sign, the USS Miami fire submarine sign, was exactly 1109% of a year before the climax of the Titanic submarine sign. That is astounding because the number 1109 is a pairing of 110 and 9. This isn't the only instance of God using 1109 for this extremely profound number of pairing 9 and 110. And I explained many times in other videos why God pairs 9 and 110. It hints at 9/11 and the 110 stories that collapsed of the Twin Towers and engendered a small earthquake on Wall Street, where George Washington was inaugurated at Federal Hall before he then walked down Wall Street, which was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. And Joshua died at the age of 110 in the Bible after leading the Israelites around the walls of security before they collapsed in judgment. The reason why God did all this is because Washington then went into Trinity Chapel at the beginning of the nation and consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine blessings and protection. Which is why the only building that survived the falling debris at Ground Zero was Trinity Chapel, today nicknamed the Miracle Chapel. God was pointing to George Washington and his prophetic words. And it was all pointing also to Isaiah chapter 9:11, which is another reason why 9 and 110 hints at 9:11. Through the 9/11 events, God was pointing to Isaiah chapter 9, verse 11, which was the judgment warning for ancient Israel. And the bricks falling, and on and on. I'm not going to get into it. So also exactly 20 years later was the collapse, sudden collapse of Afghanistan, and the iconic image of that. And 20 years is prophetic. It symbolizes a complete period of waiting in the Bible, God waiting for America to repent before judgment destruction. Anyway, 20 in Afghanistan was a result of 9/11, the war. And so the iconic image of that is the big cargo plane taking off and the Afghanis running after it and clinging onto it and then falling from it, just like they fell from the tower when they jumped out of it. But the big number, the big serial number on the side of that plane is 1109. Okay, so anyway, this submarine sign that I just brought up is 1109% of a year, which is astounding because God uses percents of a year for connections, to this Titanic submarine sign, which, as I just said, connects with 18 weeks to the 18 deaths in Maine, which, as I'm about to explain, is hinted at, or part of this sign is the Hunt for Red October submarine. Okay, so that's amazing. Now, where was I? So the hunt. Okay, so we have the Hunt for Red October. The hunt for the shooter in Maine ended. Again, we were talking about the ending of the Hunt for Red October. So the hunt for the shooter, the manhunt in Maine, ended with his body found next to or in a river. And again, the ending of the Hunt for Red October is the submarine hiding in the river. Red October is almost an anagram for Robert Card, the name of the shooter. I just got to, it's playing in my mind now because it's so new to me, but this is really, really profound. It really does bring more light to the prophetic significance of the USS Miami fire. So what happened was this guy, that's another thing. So here we go. So it was a lone guy. It was this guy that sort of pulled a prank or something, but he started the fire on the USS Miami. He was a sailor on the sub, but he started the fire, and it cost the number of I think it was 17, I forget, the $17 million or 17 billion for a submarine? I don't know. But anyway, the number 17 pairs with 44. Okay, so, but anyway, what I'm saying is that we have new understanding now for the fitting of this prophetic sign into the big picture, because it is 1109% of a year to the Titanic submarine sign. And that's a massive judgment warning. And, furthermore, the Titanic was on its way to Manhattan. Another thing, too. So, okay, there you have it. And then we have the 18 weeks to this. It's just amazing. All right, now that in itself makes this video that I'm about to explain even more amazing. All right, so again, the hunt for the man ended with the river as well in Maine, okay? Red October is almost an anagram for Robert Card, the name of the shooter. So look at that, think about it for just a second here. Red October, Robert Card. It really is almost an anagram when you mix up the letters. And that's the name of the shooter. The name of the river in the movie Hunt for Red October, Penobscot, is almost an anagram for Pentecost. That's clear. That is clear from God, because Pentecost, the Feast of Pentecost, symbolizes the church. And as I wrote, this makes this a judgment warning for the church, which is the main theme of God's big picture of signs. Speaking of the state of Maine, the main theme of God's big picture of signs is judgment warning for the church. And that's one reason why his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is only being explained on this channel. It is very rare that you will hear this message of judgment warning for the church. And God is very, very displeased with the American church, especially the American evangelical church, which thinks that it must be the other churches, but no, it's the evangelical church. Because God reproves whom he loves. And as Peter said, judgment begins with the church. Okay, so we have Penobscot hinting at Pentecost. Okay, and shootings are, as I said, symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, SHOs, which is why there were 13 injured and 18 deaths, as it hints at Revelation 13:18, which regards the mark of the Antichrist. Penobscot also hints at Scott. The star actor of Hunt for Red October is Sean Connery, and he is known for being a proud Scot. I mean, he really is known for that, speaking out about how he is a proud Scot. The name Robert is Scottish, the name of the shooter. That's a Scottish name. The etymology of Roberts and Robertson, I mean, that's also a classic Scottish name, by the way. The etymology of Roberts and Robertson is the same as Robinson. These are basically the same names. The root of it is all the same. And Robinson is the maiden name of Michelle Obama, which is where this is all headed, this sign. The discovery of Robert Card's body coincided with the Hunter full moon. That's a typo. Okay, so there was a full moon at this time when his body was discovered, and it was the Hunter full moon, which was a partial lunar eclipse. Okay, Genesis 1:14 tells us that the lights in the sky are for prophetic signs, and the two brightest lights in the sky are the sun and the moon, and when they come together, they often can be prophetic signs, especially today, given how close we are. You can pretty much count on any even partial lunar eclipse being somehow prophetically significant. And when I say close, I mean close to the end, the return of Lord Jesus Christ, in 2024, in October. And the prediction being made in this video will prove this, and this is the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction, is to prove what I just said there about the timing of the Lord and also the identity of the mark of the Antichrist, and the Antichrist for that matter. And believe me, to not appreciate this is to miss entirely the point of this prediction that is from God and the point of this video and video channel. If you are going to refuse to accept this after the prediction has come to pass, you might as well turn off the video now. You are wasting your time. The eclipse has centered, this eclipse, this partial lunar eclipse, this Hunter moon lunar eclipse, was centered over Israel, but some parts of northeastern North America were able to see it. The further up the east coast, the better. And Maine is the furthest northeast one can be in America, making this Hunter moon lunar eclipse a sign pointing to the shooting in Maine, which involved a hunt, a manhunt, and was pointed to the movie, and it was pointed to by the movie Hunt for Red October. You could switch it around, vice versa. Hunt for Red October is pointing to the Hunter moon or whatever, but That's the connection here. Literally, because if you look at the map on where the partial lunar eclipse was able to be seen from, it really is, if you're looking from a America-centric perspective, designed for Maine, because Maine was essentially the best and really only place to see the eclipse in in the U.S. And by the way, some people will say, well, why are you so focused on America all the time with your science? And the answer to that is, well, because God is. There were only two nations in history that were founded on a relationship with God, Israel and America. America is God's Gentile nation, which he's now in the process of beginning judgment, destruction of, for having departed from God. On the day of the Hunter Moon lunar eclipse that pointed to shooter Robert Card, Matthew Perry died. His first credited acting role was in a drama series named 24 Robert. In his first movie role, he played Fred Roberts. Okay, so clearly Matthew Perry is connecting to Robert Card because his two first roles in TV and movies were associated with Robert. Okay, he died at the age of 54, and he was born exactly 23 years after the 42nd president was born, and died when the 42nd president turned 77 years and 7 days old, which is a symbolic 3 sets of 7. Very big in God's signs, 3 sets of 7, because the Israelites marched around to the walls of security of Jericho, and before they collapsed in judgment, they enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7. They marched once per day for 7 days, and then on the 7th day, they marched 7 times while blowing 7 trumpets. In Simple English Gematria, and 42 is a number associated with the Antichrist in Bible prophecy, especially also with a period of time, because it is said that the Antichrist will rule for 42 months. It is only a symbolic 42 months, though we are well inside the final 42 months. And the prediction being made in this video will prove this, and this is the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction. Okay, so that's the reason for bringing in the 42nd president here. We are confirming, we are focusing in on the Antichrist with all of this. In Simple English Gematria, Maine is equal to 42. And if you don't know what Gematria is, Hebrew, Roman, Greek letters are also numbers, and as such, names and words can be converted into a numeric value. And when we do this with English, Maine equals 42, and it equals 252 in English Gematria. That's the style that mimics the Hebrew system. And simple English is A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. 252 is relevant because that hints at 2,520, the number of days, symbolic days, that the Bible prophecy says is the period of the Antichrist. Again, it's all symbolism, though. And if you're raising an eyebrow because you've been thinking all of this time that the 7 years is about to begin, and Daniel 70th 7, for those that know what I'm talking about, I can relate. I understand. But you need to learn some more, and it has been revealed in God's big picture of signs that it is all simply symbolism. All right? And the prediction being made in this video will prove that. The basketball president wore 23, and in Bible prophecy, he is said to rule for 42 months. A symbolic 42 months. Perry died after playing 2 hours of pickleball, which, since the CVD lockdowns, is the fastest growing sport in America, with currently 4.8 million players. Okay, the predicted 48th president wore jersey 23, and that's why 4.8 million players, and will enforce the mark of the Antichrist, because the 48th president, which is the thing, the CBD thing, through restricting the purchase of rationed food to those who have taken it, the mark of the Antichrist, the thing, and you know what I'm talking about, the thing that you can't talk about, through digital programmable currency. This is the reason for the name pickleball. It hints at food, and why Perry died at 54, which hints at the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, and we were talking about New England here with Maine, and oppressive minority laws and money. Okay, so the 54th Massachusetts Regiment is known, one of the things it is known for is the unequal pay that it didn't receive compared to the other white Northern soldiers. This was official policy from Washington. It was oppressive minority laws. And this is symbolism for what is coming. Also, the stories about money, which is also what is coming. The mark of the Antichrist will be enforced. By the way, Bible prophecy says if you take it, you're going to hell. So it's a big deal whether you take it or not, if you're unfamiliar. So anyway, the Antichrist is going to enforce this thing, you know what I'm talking about, the thing, through restricting the rationed food to only those who have taken the thing through the use of digital programmable currency. Okay, people's bank accounts will be controlled, and they will not be able to, because of the elimination of cash, be able to buy or sell food. All right? And so that's what's all hinted at here. That's why Perry died at 54 and why he was playing pickleball for 2 hours before he died. All right? And why there are 4.8 million pickleball players, and why it is the fastest growing game right now. It's all for the purpose of God using this in his signs. Yeah, that's right. The reason why the pickleball phenomenon is this video. This video is explaining the prophetic reason for pickleball. And that's the reason why people are playing pickleball. I mean, this is how big what is going on in this video is. Because it's all for God's purpose. And where else is it being explained, the reason for pickleball? It was to point to, through the death of Matthew Perry, to food. Okay, and as I'll explain, there's more. Okay, so Perry, who died after playing pickleball, said that his man crush was Obama. I mean, who says that? Who says that they have a man crush? This is a secular, liberal, left thing. No conservative Christian would ever say such nonsense. But anyway, Perry, who died after playing pickleball, said that his man crush was Obama. Obama's chef hints at rationed food. So this is the prophetic reason for Obama's chef. You probably know that Obama's chef, former chef, died while visiting his estate, while supposedly the Obamas weren't there, which makes no sense because it's not true. Okay, so anyway, Obama's chef hints at rationed food. That's why God, designed that we have this chef sign related to the Antichrist Obama. It's because of what I've been explaining here about how Obama will enforce the mark of the Antichrist through rationed food, which, by the way, will come after the predicted solar storm and eruption of Yellowstone next February. So Obama's chef hints at rationed food and the mark of the Antichrist. Obama's chef was murdered, and he was murdered by Obama personally, which is why Obama was photographed on a golf course 2 days later with a bandaged hand and a cut face. Okay, that's true. That actually is true. If you want to research that, you can find that image. All right. 2 days after the death of his chef, Obama was spotted with a bandaged hand and a cut face. What do you think that's from? Correction, it wasn't a cut face, but a black eye. It was a black eye, not a cut face. That's from a fight. Who was he fighting? Well, it's a coincidence if he wasn't fighting the chef, because the chef died 2 days earlier. And anyway, we know that he's the Antichrist, so he's a murderer. And furthermore, we already know that he has murdered people in the past. He had his former lover at his church in Chicago murdered. That's a fact. I should say his gay lover, whose name is Young Dawn. You've reversed those two words there. I didn't want to avoid any, mathematical calculation on the part of the platform here, if you know what I mean. Anyway, he murdered his gay lover at his church. That's a fact. Even the church, the guy's mother, who is a retired employee from the Chicago Police Department, believes that, a credible person. And there's all kinds of evidence. This isn't the point of this video, though. All right, so anyway, and that date that his chef was murdered, or rather that date that Obama murdered his chef, was on July 23rd, 2023. It is predicted that Michelle Obama, whose former name is Robinson, will become the president. And the chef was her chef as well. And she will become the president through the use of the 25th Amendment. Obama's chef, which hints at food, died 97 days before Matthew Perry died after playing pickleball, which hints at food. 97 is the 25th prime number. And Michelle is predicted to become the president through the 25th Amendment. Matthew Perry died of a heart attack as a result of taking the mark of the Antichrist, and you know that's the case. You know that that's what happened. Everyone who knows what's going on knows that that's why he died. Okay, so he, and like a lot of, by the way, athletes have, because of this, right? Anyway, Matthew, and not that Matthew Perry was an athlete, but he had just been playing pickleball for 2 hours. All right. So Matthew Perry died from a heart attack as a result of taking, what was I thinking? Sometimes I just miss the so obvious things. So although he died from a heart attack, the story is that he drowned. But of course, he had a heart attack and then drowned, right? In the jacuzzi. But how is it said that the chef died? It's said that he drowned. But just like the chef story, the true, exact, precise way in which he died is not what's being reported in the narrative. Because Matthew Perry, the truth is that he died from the thing that caused the heart attack, which caused him to drown. And so what God is doing here is he's pointing to how exactly did the chef drown? Because the story is he fell off of his paddleboard. He was paddleboarding on a lake. It wasn't the open ocean, for one thing. He was paddleboarding on a lake. And there's video of him being a good swimmer. So he knew how to swim. And he was found in shallow water. He was found close to the shore in shallow water. So in other words, the true story, just like Matthew Perry's true story of how he died and drowned, is it's a drowning to a drowning, and it's connected with 97 days. And the reason for that is because 97 is the 25th prime number, and that's because, as I'm explaining here, the death of the chef connects to the 25th Amendment used for Michelle Obama. And the chef was Michelle's chef too. All right. Now, Matthew Perry died from a heart attack as a result of taking the thing. And the mark of the Antichrist, which is the mark of the Antichrist. And the mark of the Antichrist is symbolized by the number 22. Which is why Perry, who in his first roles was associated with the name Robert and Roberts, died, that's a typo, I guess, because it's 240 Robert, died on the Hunter Moon lunar eclipse seen in Maine that coincided with the hunt for Robert Card in Maine. All right, the date, November 19th, that is being spoken of here regarding Michelle Obama ended up being a step in the trail of signs. It's regarding her. It's explained in other videos. This was the day that Rosalind Carter died and the prophetic football game that pointed to turnovers in the White House. I won't elaborate any more than that, just to say that the analysis in this video here regarding November 19th and Michelle Obama is in fact correct. It was another step in the trail of signs. So this is the reason for the Robert signs, including Matthew Perry, who is associated with Robert, and the Robert Card mass shooting, right? And the mass shootings are symbolic of the thing, right? Things that come out of guns and go into people are symbolic of the thing. And that's, in other words, God designed that shooting to reveal the truth for how it is that Matthew Perry died. That's why the coinciding of the Roberts, okay, obviously, right? Matthew Perry died from the thing that is symbolized by the shootings. That's why Robert Card and Matthew Perry, who played the character Robert, and the first show was named Robert. All right, from the Antichrist, who beat him up because they were lovers. That if that wasn't obvious, and I didn't mention that, they were having a gay relationship, and somehow something happened, and that's what happened, right? Probably Obama was paddleboarding with him, probably. All right, so that's amazing. Now, the reason why number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist is that the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist described in the book of Ezekiel would have been a Tav mark. And the Tav letter is the last letter and the 22nd letter in the alphabet. And the mark of the Antichrist described in the book of Revelation is in the last book of the Bible, which is the 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. All right, so yeah. That's the reason number 22 in God's sign symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. And so again, from the chef, from the chef's death, we have 97 days, 25th Amendment. This is amazing beyond words, because I'm just amazed at the connection with the two drownings, and what is the real cause of the drowning being pointed to, with this coinciding with the manhunt and the shooting, which is symbolic of things, SHOs, as I explained. So I think I've made this clear. So I'm just going to move on, but how is it really possible to move on without basking in the amazingness of that for quite a while? Well, let's move on. Well, actually, let's just summarize very quickly here. We have the mass shooting, which is symbolic of the thing, the mark of the Antichrist, in the 23rd state, because the Antichrist wore jersey 23 when he played basketball in high school, the basketball president. And we have the name Robert, which hints at Robinson, Michelle Robinson. And then coinciding with the discovery, with the manhunt and the river and red hunt for Red October, the final scene, we have in Maine, in the river, and the name of the river, Penobscot, hint at the Scottish name for Robert. The etymological root of that is the same as Robinson. And then we have, at the same time as the discovery of the body of the Robert that shot in the mass shooting, we have the full moon, or rather the lunar eclipse, only seen from Maine, essentially, and the death of Matthew Perry, who last posted on social media about the moon, and he, in his first roles in a movie and a show, is tied to the name Robert. And there's more, actually, because I'm about to get to how he died on Julia Roberts' birthday, and Matthew Perry dated Julia Roberts. But anyway, so you get the idea here. This is all point, and the chef and the pickleball is all about food, and so we have this whole all tied together. The mass shooting, which is symbolic of how they died, or rather, Matthew Perry died. All right, because that's the truth and that's revealed, and so there's this mystery as to how these two people died, or drowned, I should say. There's a mystery behind both of them, and that's designed by God to hint at the true mystery as to how Matthew Perry died, and also how it is the mark of the Antichrist. That's how he died, and the mark of the Antichrist will be enforced through rationed food, which is why the chef and pickleball. All right, now also, as I was getting at, Matthew Perry died on the birthday of Julia Roberts, who turned 56 that day. Matthew Perry died at 54. 54 hints at the rationed food because of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment and the unequal pay that they weren't paid, the $13 that the other white Northern soldiers were paid and they weren't. 13 hints at the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, but the currency, the money that they weren't paid, is hinting at, in God's signs, the programmable digital currency that will be used to enforce the mark of the Antichrist through rationed food. The programmable currency will be restricted from being able to be used by those who haven't taken the mark of the mark of the Antichrist. They won't be able to buy food. And so Matthew Perry died at the age of 54. 54 hints at the Massachusetts Regiment that weren't paid the $13, which hints at the programmable digital currency that will be used to enforce the mark of the Antichrist, which is symbolized by shootings. Things that come out of guns and go into people are symbolic of the SHOs, which is why it was 13 people that were injured in the shooting in Maine at the time of Matthew Perry's death, because it hints at the $13 of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment and Matthew Perry's age at his death, which was 54. So now we know how the death of Obama's chef fits. Here is a link that I sent regarding, let's see, the map here. All right, so here you can see in the map that the best place to see this eclipse is in Maine. You really can't see it anywhere else in the U.S. except for New England. And the further up northeast you are, the better you can see this partial lunar eclipse. So this is clearly hinting at Maine because of the other reasons for Maine being in the focus here at this same time, as I explained. To confirm his signs and connections, God pairs 23 and 9 together. Alec Baldwin starred with Sean Connery in Hunt for Red October, which ends in the 23rd state. The end of the manhunt for the shooter in the 23rd state that coincided with the Hunter Moon eclipse seen in the 23rd state on October 28th was exactly 90 plus 90 plus 90 days after it was announced that Alec Baldwin would be charged for the shooting on the movie set of Rust. Rust and SHOs hint at the metals that are inside the CVD SHOs. He shot Helena Hutchinson. Okay, so that's amazing, right? We've got the shooting to shooting sign with exactly 90 plus 90 plus 90 days to the 23rd state, and God pairs 23 and 9 together to confirm the signs and connections. That is astounding too. It's also astounding confirmation that the Hunt for Red October is relevant here because Alec Baldwin starred in this movie as well. Okay, and he shot on the movie set of Rust Helena Hutchinson, which was a prophetic sign pointing to the Nicolaitan doctrine of the evangelical church, which is the doctrine of Anne Hutchinson. So God has precisely identified what the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day is, that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine, as described in Revelation chapter 2. And he's identified the doctrine, which is the doctrine of Anne Hutchinson. I'm not going to explain the second witness confirmations for what I have said here about how Helena Hutchinson was designed by God to point to the doctrine of Anne Hutchinson, because that's explained in other videos. And it's not this video, it's just be too long. But that is the case. And Anne Hutchinson's doctrine is the she was known for being the leader in the spiritual founding of America in the Boston, New England colony, for that matter. We're talking about New England here with this Maine shooting and this eclipse. Anyway, so she was the leader of the antinomian controversy, also known as the free grace controversy, because antinomianism is free grace theology, which today I would say, I don't know about the vast majority, but the doctrine is widespread within evangelical culture today. But it's also a close cousin to which is also the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day, Calvinism and dispensationalism and Reformed theology. But the bottom line is that it is what is the root of the bad fruit from the bad tree. And what makes evangelical Christians complacent and why they have a lack of fear of God. It is their doctrine, which is why they have a lack of fear of God, and is also why they are lazy. And if you are watching this video, there's a better than average chance that you are a lazy one because you're watching videos. I mean, it's ironic, right? It's the catch-22 here. You know, I'm producing the video for you to watch, but really, it's not a good sign if you are watching it. You aren't working. You know, you need to be, and it's clear we need to work. But Christians, evangelicals today have a phobia when it comes to work because of their doctrine. But that isn't the Bible. You need to be producing fruit, otherwise you'll be thrown into the fire. And this demonstration of faith, actualizing their faith, if you will, usually typically involves some form of risk and sacrifice. All right? Which is the purpose of the mark of the Antichrist, by the way. It is for the purpose of getting these complacent Christians to finally demonstrate their faith through risk and sacrifice, such as, for example, losing their job or not being able to go on a vacation, traveling, etc., right? If you took the mark for the sake of traveling and going on a vacation, whoa, okay? So anyway, that's the point. And this is clearly demonstrated in the Bible. What you need to do, rather than me go on for another half hour or more regarding theology, is to watch the 23 church signs video on this channel, but also stop being lazy. Do something and work nonstop. Hand out flyers after work, on your way home, throughout your day, when you're shopping. I don't know what anyone is thinking if they're not handing out a flyer as they go into the bank or the grocery store. And if you are shy, my advice to you is get over it. Courage isn't a lack of fear, it's action in spite of it. So hand out flyers. What are you doing? You know that the time is near and you're not handing out flyers? What are you thinking? The best way to reach people is to hand out flyers. Okay, so I'm giving you some stern advice because, hopefully that makes you listen more by speaking in such a manner. But if you would like the file for the flyer I hand out, please contact me. Please email me. I believe that, now is not the time to be handing out regular, typical evangelical tracts, which mostly have false, heretical Hutchinson doctrine on it anyway. So what you need to be doing is to be warning people with the knowledge that you have. This is a bag of gold. watching this video here is a bag of gold, and Jesus said that those that do nothing with their bags of gold will be thrown into hell. And he was talking to Christians. There's no one that is quote unquote saved past tense. We are in the process of being saved. And Jesus was warning Christians. Jesus warned a lot about hell. And only 2 of those times was he not warning Christians, born again believers, of going to hell. Only twice in his many warnings of hell was it not to born again Christians. Okay? In other words, the Nicolaitan doctrine, the Hutchinson doctrine, is deception from Satan, which is why she was banished from the spiritual founding of America and then was later murdered by Native Indians. Okay, and so back to what I was writing here, which is why the end of the movie was at the Penobscot River, which is at Pentecost. Again, this is a judgment warning for the church. The partial eclipse was in a high place. 90 plus 90 plus 90 days earlier, the spy balloon entered the U.S. in a high place, which was again the day that Alec Baldwin was charged. And this, in turn, was exactly 1,116 weeks. Okay, I forgot to write that. And that hints at the 1,116th word in Strong's Hebrew Concordance, the word Bama, which means high place. So the spy balloon entered the U.S. in a high place, exactly 1,116 weeks, which hints at high place, and the name Baba, after the planes struck the towers in a high place on 9/11. And again, the partial eclipse was in a high place, hence the connection from 9/11 of 1,116 weeks, followed by 90 plus 90 plus 90 days. And the number 9 is the most important number in God's signs, as from the Bible it symbolizes God's judgment. And again, this 90 plus 90 plus 90 days is confirmed because it connects to the 23rd state, and God pairs 9 and 23 together to confirm his signs and connections. All right, regarding all of this, we have a connection from the full moon and the death of Matthew Perry, which again hints at Robinson, as I explained, on October 28th. It is 115 days to the date it is predicted that Michelle Robinson Obama will become the president. 115 days is 2,760 hours. And that's very relevant because the number 276 is one of 3 unusually specific numbers in the Bible, and it appears in context of drowning. Paul and others on the ship almost drowned in a dramatic shipwreck. And this is significant in this context involving this theme of drownings. The chef of Obama connected to the drowning of Matthew Perry and this date, October 28th. So Matthew Perry drowned on October 28th, 2,760 hours, which hints at 276, which is the number in context in the Bible of this incident that alluded to drowning. So there you have it. Oh, and also regarding the ship, because the 276 souls were on the ship that shipwrecked, this connection is all about ship symbolism because of the connection, as explained, to the Hunt for Red October submarine, which is a ship, and the submersible that was used to search for Robert Card's body, and the search for the body of the chef of Obama underwater. So we have this theme of underwater here and ship. And this also connects to the date it is predicted. And so that's another confirmation for the symbolic relevance of the number 276, which is used to connect October 28th to the date it is predicted that Michelle Robinson Obama will become the president on February 20th, 2024. The USS Miami in Maine sub sign is 1109% of a year before the climax of the Titanic sub sign on June 22nd, 2023, which in turn is exactly 18 weeks to the death of 18 people in Maine on October 24th, 2023. Sorry, that should be 25th, typo, which is pointed to with the Hunt for Red October sub, the submarine in the movie. That's amazing. That's so amazing because God pairs 110 and 9 together. I'll just give you one example. Exactly 20 years after 9/11 and the collapse of the towers on 9/11 was the sudden dramatic collapse of the U.S. presence in Afghanistan, most remembered with the iconic scene of the cargo plane leaving Kabul with the Afghanis running after it, hanging onto it, falling from it, just like they fell from the towers on 9/11. But the big number, the big serial number on the side and the front of the plane, which is the iconic image of it, if I remember, I'll include an image in this video. It's the big 1109 on it. And that's amazing because that's what it points to 9/11, when the 110 stories collapsed that engendered an earthquake and cracked the foundation of Federal Hall on Wall Street, where George Washington was inaugurated, and Wall Street was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. And of course, 110 and 9 also hint at 9/11, the date. All right, so anyway, the USS Miami sub sign, when it burned in 2012, is 1109% of a year to the Titanic sub sign, which was the day that it was discovered the fate of the sub at the foot of the Titanic, at the bow. All right, and that is in turn exactly 18 weeks to the 18 deaths in Maine. And like I'm saying in this video, this sign in Maine with the shooting is hinted at with the Hunt for Red October submarine. Okay, the death of the chef by drowning connects to the death of Matthew Perry, by drowning. As you can see, I wrote all of these exclamation marks here because that is astounding. Now we have 100% confirmation, indisputable confirmation, that what I was saying is in fact the case, which is that the death of the chef and the death of Perry are connected, both related to food. But the reason for it, what confirms it too, is the manner in which they died, the controversial manner in which both of them died. Because as I write here, and it is about the question of how did Perry really die? Which hints at how did the chef really die? Okay, Perry died from the thing, which is why his death coincides with the mass shooting, which symbolizes the thing, right? As I explained. And the Antichrist, who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist thing, murdered his chef. Which is why 97 days, as in the 25th Amendment, and 4.8 million pickleball players. All right, in other words, what I'm saying here is that God has confirmed how the chef died. Obama murdered the chef. All right? There was an image, he was photographed just like 2 days after the chef died when he was golfing, and he had a bandaged hand and a cut face. It's clear in the image. He was really photographed right after that playing golf, not knowing he was photographed, but he had a bandaged hand and a cut face. That's kind of a coincidence. Also, apparently the story now is that the chef was naked, but that there was a woman with him. But we don't know anything about the woman in the supposed story here. But that's because that woman was implanted into the story to explain why the chef was found naked. But the true reason why the chef was found naked is that he was having a homosexual relationship with Obama. And this isn't the first time that Obama has had someone murdered, but I think it's clear that he actually did the murder this time, because it's widely known that he had his gay lover at his church in Chicago murdered, Don Young. And which, by the way, Don Young's mother fully believes that's the case, and she's a retired employee of the police department. Okay? And others, credible people, also believe that Don Young was murdered for his homosexual relationship with Barack Obama. And that, of course, happened at the time when he was running for president, right? So anyway, this confirms it. The two deaths here by the mysterious drowning in both cases confirm what has been stated here in this video. They're connected with the food, but they're also connected by the fact that they drowned. But not only did they drowned in mysterious circumstances, unclear circumstances. And that's for a reason. All right, Matthew Perry, who's first, and so anyway, that's huge, by the way. I mean, let's just, before we move on, let's just like soak that in here. It's appropriate that the Antichrist would be guilty of murder. That's just, because Obama is the Antichrist. And it does make sense that the Antichrist, before he becomes the Antichrist, would be guilty of murder secretly. It just makes perfect sense. It's totally fitting, in fact. And it would be for extreme abominable unrighteousness too, which is his homosexual relationships, right? All right, Matthew Perry, whose first role involved the name Robert and Roberts, as was explained, dated Julia Roberts, famous actress Julia Roberts. Perry died on Julia Roberts' 56th birthday. That's amazing, because 56 is the 3 sets of 7 number. It is 7 plus 7 times 7. Book of Joshua, because the Israelites marched around Jericho before the walls have collapsed. Before the walls of security collapsed, they enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7. They marched around once per day for 7 days, and then on the 7th day they marched around 7 times while blowing 7 trumpets. It was a 7 followed by a 7 times 7, and that's what 56 symbolizes. And Julia Roberts died at Matthew Perry died on Julia Roberts' 56th birthday, which is more confirmation of the relevance of Perry's first roles as associated with the name Robert and Roberts. So Julia Roberts stars in the new apocalyptic movie named Leave the World Behind. The release of the trailer for this movie was a prophetic sign on October 24th. So October 24th was a super date. There were a number of prophetic signs. And God does this. He has these super dates for signs, and the signs together contain messages that the signs wouldn't otherwise have. But that's actually the nature of all of God's signs. The full intended meaning of God's prophetic signs cannot be properly understood without their connections and context with the other signs. That's the case with all of the signs, but it's especially the case with the super date signs here. Anyway, the trailer for this movie, this apocalyptic movie, this like end times apocalyptic, movie, it's about blackouts, and anyway, it stars Julia Roberts, and and God uses trailer releases, official dates of trailer releases for movies, for his signs, and it was released on October 24th, and that was the day before the shooting in Maine. Okay, so the movie had its world premiere at the American Film Institute the next day, the day that the shooting occurred in Maine, October 25th. The same day that Robert Card shot, as in the Mark of the Antichrist, SHO'd, as in the Mark of the Antichrist, and killed 18, which hints at 6 plus 6 plus 6, and injured 13 people 13 days before it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. Michelle Obama Robinson, which is the same name as Roberts etymologically, will replace Harris. So that's why there was 13 injured. It's because it occurred 13 days before Harris's crash. Robert Card is almost an anagram for Red October from Hunt for Red, from the movie Hunt for Red October. That's a typo. On the day of Robert's 56th birthday and Perry's death was a partial red moon lunar eclipse seen in Maine. Before Perry died, he tweeted that he was looking at the moon and that he is Matt Man. So people are familiar with this part of the story regarding Matthew Perry and how his final social media post was, about the moon. But that's also because of the prophetic significance of the hunter moon, as we were talking about. Okay, so this full moon was the hunter moon. The reason for hunter and hunt, as in the manhunt and Hunt for Red October, is that this is symbolic of Nimrod in the Bible. It took me a while to figure this out here. Who is a type for the Antichrist? Because Nimrod in the Bible is said to be a hunter. And Nimrod is a prophetic foreshadow of the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is Michelle Robinson's husband. Nimrod is the 13th generation from Ham. And this is why Robert Card injured 13 days before Harris's predicted crash. Therefore, all of this was confirmation of Harris's crash, which will lead to her replacement by Roberts, as in Robinson, Michelle Obama Robinson, who will be replaced by the Antichrist, Nimrod the Hunter, Barack Obama. Nimrod, the 13th generation from Ham. That's amazing. So again, the reason for the 18 deaths is that hints at 666, and the 13 injured is because the Antichrist, 666, is the 13th generation from Ham, Nimrod. So that's why 18 and 13 there. But also, the mark of the Antichrist is described in Revelation 13:18, as I mentioned earlier. Again, the movie Leave the World Behind is executive produced by the Obamas. That's the huge thing here. This will be explained in the video that will explain the signs that occurred on October 24th. But this movie, Leave the World Behind, starring Julia Roberts, is executive produced by the Obamas. For whatever reason, the Obamas got involved with Netflix, and they are producers behind some documentaries and movies. This one being the case, and that's why it's prophetic and more confirmation that all of this points to Obama. And the movie is also produced, not only starring, but also produced by Julia Roberts, which is more confirmation that that God is saying, look, Michelle Obama Robinson, look what's going to come here. All right, regarding all of this, we have a connection from the full moon and the death of Matthew Perry, on which again hints at Robinson, as I explained, on October 28th. It is 115 days to the date it is predicted that Michelle Robinson Obama will become the president. 115 days is 2,760 hours. And that's very relevant because the number 276 is one of three unusually specific numbers in the Bible, and it appears in context of drowning. Paul and others on the ship almost drowned in a dramatic shipwreck. And this is significant in this context involving this theme of drownings. The chef of Obama connected to the drowning of Matthew Perry and this date, October 28th. So Matthew Perry drowned on October 28th, 2,760 hours, which hints at 276, which is the number in context in the Bible of this incident that alluded to drowning. So there you have it. Oh, and also, regarding the ship, because the 276 souls were on the ship that shipwrecked, this connection is all about ship symbolism because of the connection as explained to the Hunt for Red October submarine, which is a ship, and the submersible that was used to search for Robert Card's body, and the search for the body of the chef of Obama underwater. So we have this theme of underwater here and ship, and this also connects to the date it is predicted. And so that's another confirmation for the symbolic relevance of the number 276, which is used to connect October 28th to the date it is predicted that Michelle Robinson Obama will become the president on February 20th, 2024. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video. And once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more. Don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.